Hello, welcome to episode 174 of the Datapack tutorial series, version 1.2.1.4. We're going to be teleporting to other players, if they want us to. These commands are by GalSergey, so big thank you to them. Let's do a little demonstration. So we've got a couple of trigger commands. We can do trigger TP, and there's a list of people I can teleport. Well, I can't teleport to myself. We'll exclude that. So there's only minion. So we can click on their name in chat, click teleport, boom, there we are, and we've turned into some hideous hybrid. Reminds me of the film The Fly. Okay. Stop that now. Yes. Okay, so we could do that, or minion could run the trigger TP toggle command. So if I run that, now it's off. If I run it again, now it's on. So if we get minion to run that. Okay, minion's triggered it. And now if we do the same again, we try to get a list of who we can teleport to. No one in the list, because it excludes me, because there's no point teleporting to yourself. And minion has their trigger turned off. So I said, oh, minion, turn your trigger back on. There we go. And now we can go and teleport to them again and turn into some hideous hybrid. Okay. So that's it, really. Teleport to players if they have their toggle turned on and they allow you to. Pretty cool, I think, for a multiplayer server. What are you staring at, minion? Anyway, enough waffling. Let's get on and build it now. Okay, here we are in VS Code where we usually start. Right. What have I added? So inside my namespace, we've got an advancement folder inside there first join. Inside my namespace function, we've added the folder teleport to store all my functions. And we're going to use the load and the tick as well. And then we've got two predicates, an ID match and a TP match. Okay. Probably makes sense to start with load. So we want a scoreboard to store a unique player ID. We've done this lots of times. So let's do scoreboard objectives, add, we call it ID, and it will be a dummy. We want a boolean storing whether the player has teleporting enabled. So can we teleport to them? Let's call it scoreboard objectives, add TP off. Is the TP off? It's a dummy. And then we need a couple of triggers. One so they can toggle their TP on and off, and one so they can actually activate the TP command. Scoreboard objectives, add TP. That'll be a trigger. And probably just copy that and paste it. And we'll call this one TP toggle. Okay, let's save that. Close that down. Load done. Let's do the first join advancement. That's going to be a ticking advancement. Let's go off. Let's do it in misode. Advancement. Oh, we didn't clean that up from last time. Okay, so criteria. What should we call it? Let's call it. Actually, do we need? Can we just do requirement entry? No. What am I doing? Let's call it first join. First join. Let's add that. What's the trigger going to be? It's going to be tick. Tick, tick, tick. It's always ticking. Oh, look, because I pressed that requirements button, it's added it over here. We must remember to take that off there. We don't want that. So it's going to be ticking, and each tick, it's going to run the first join function. So a reward will be a function. We'll just put a name holder. Okay. And we will save that. And we will bring it back. We will pop it into first join. There we go. And now let's fill in this placeholder. We are going to run first join function. Let's put that in there. Okay, so we're not going to revoke it. So it's only going to run once for each player, but it will run as soon as they join. Cool. Now let's go to first join and we'll assign the player an ID. We will execute store result as a score at S ID run scoreboard players add. Let's have a fake player and we'll just call them next. We'll do ID 1. Now I need to reserve the number 1, so I want the IDs to start at 2. So we're just going to do a little check here. If someone gets assigned 1, we're going to bump it up to 2, because we're going to use 1 for when we do triggering. So 1 would be, yes, we try to activate the TP, and then every ID after that would be a player ID. So execute if score. We call them next, didn't we? ID matches 1. Store result as a score at S. ID run scoreboard players add fake player next ID 1. Okay, so if the first player joins and they get assigned a score of 1, we'll go, it equals 1, quick, make that player have an ID of 2, and then the next player will be 3, 4, 5, 6. And we'll enable the triggers for the player as well, so they can actually do stuff, otherwise it's pointless. So scoreboard players enable at S. Oh, that's not very good. At S, we want to enable the TP. Can we just copy that? We also want to enable the TP toggle. Okay. So I'm going to log in. This is going to detect me. It's going to run first join. It's going to give me an ID if I'm the first player of 1. And then it's going to go, oh, no, sorry, you can't have 1. You'll be 2. And then from then on, every other player will be 3, 4, 5. And then it's going to enable those triggers so I can actually type them into chat. Okay. Now let's do some detecting of those triggers. So we'll pop into the tick function. We'll process the player who is teleporting. We will execute as all players whose scores equals, open and close, TP equals 1 or higher. And we will run function read. Okay. And we'll process the toggling as well. So let's execute as all players whose scores equals TP toggle equals 1 or higher, and we will run function toggle. Okay. Let's do the toggle first, because that's pretty easy. That's just going to be a case of if it's 1, set it to 0. If it's 0, set it to 1. So let's do that one first, and then we'll do the more complicated bits. Reset and enable the trigger. Okay, so we want them to be able to do it again. Scoreboard players reset at S TP toggle. Home. Now we've reset it, so that would actually disable it for them. So after we've reset it, we will enable it again. Then we'll invert the toggle value. So we will execute store success as a score at S TP off unless score at S TP off matches 1. So if it's a 0, we will store a 1, and if it's a 1, we will store a 0. And now let's display some feedback to the player. So let's do a tell raw at S. Oh, let's do a score check in here as well. Scores equals TP off equals 0. Let's just do a simple tell raw. We just put something in brackets. We'll say TP mode on. Now I'll copy that. Copy. Let's go back. We'll say TP mode off if it equals 1. Okay. Let's do a test. Let's do a reload. Now I've already got IDs assigned to me, but we can check that. Scoreboard objectives set display to the sidebar ID. Okay, so before testing, I was 2 and 3, but I never actually reset next. So now I'm considered new players. We are now 4 and 5. That's why it's on 4 and 5, not 2 and 3. Okay, so I'm 4, minions 5, but we can't teleport yet. All we can do is trigger TP toggle. My TP mode is now off, so people can't teleport to me. If I toggle again, my TP mode is now on, so people can toggle to me. Now, can we do a game rule? Game rule, send command feedback to false. Let's clear chat, and let's do the toggle again. Now we can just get the message. We don't get the message saying we're activating stuff. On, on, on. There we go. Off, on. Cool. Now, let's move on to process the player teleporting. Well, we're going to need some predicates for this. Do a bit of ID matching and teleport ID matching. So, misode again. Let's go off to misode. Now, I think I say this each time now. I normally, because I've done this ID match thing so many times, I normally just copy it and paste it into my Datapack. And I always forget how to do it. So let's go. Condition. We want to check an entity's score. For entity scores, the entity will be this. The score we want to check will be the ID. Add that. We don't want an integer. I believe we want an object. Yeah. And now we have a minimum, which will be an object. And we have a maximum, which will be an object. The type will be a score. So let's set them both to score. The target will be an object. Target will be an object. The type will be fixed. The type will be fixed. The name, now we'll use a fake player. Let's just call them this. That'll do. Copy. Fake player this. The score we want to check will be the ID. The score here we want to check will be the ID. Okay. So what we'll do is I will have an ID score. Let's say mine is, well, at the moment it's 4, I think, isn't it? So I'll copy that to the fake player this. And then I can do a check. Does another player match this? And if they do match, cool. Let's copy that. Let's take it back. Let's put it into ID match. Paste that in there. And I'm going to save that. And I'm going to have another one called TP match. And I'm just going to paste this one in again, actually. But we're going to make a little bit of a difference. We're still going to be checking the ID score, but we're going to be comparing it to the fake player this. We're going to compare it to their TP score. Okay, let's save that. So that's our predicates done. Now we can go off to the read. Oh, it's getting a bit longer. Store values for predicate checks. Okay, this is where we're going to store those scores. Scoreboard, players, operation. We called them this inside the predicate. This ID equals at S ID. And I'm going to copy that. Copy, and I'm going to say TP. And this is our trigger. TP. Okay. List the available players. Execute if score at S TP matches 1 or higher, then run, return, run, function, don't do functino, list. Okay, actually we don't want 1 or higher, we want 1. Okay, so when we run the trigger command, it's going to set it to 1, and that means I am trying to teleport to someone. And then later on, we'll set the same trigger command, the TP trigger, to their ID, which is why we didn't want any players to have an ID of 1. Okay, now we have to reset and enable the TP trigger. Scoreboard. Players. Reset at S TP. Home. Copy. And enable. Display message if no player matches the ID. Okay, so what we're going to be doing is looking for a player by their ID, which we saved. And if we can't find a player to teleport to, then Then we save that there's no player. Okay, so let's execute unless entity for all players predicate equals TP match limit equals 1. There's no point checking every player. Once we found the player, we might as well stop. Run, return, run. Tell raw at S. And let's have, so what we've tried to do is we've looked for an ID. Let's say we're looking for what? I'm 4, minion is 5. Let's say we looked for 6. So there's no players with 6. So we'll say the player is offline, I suppose, or does not exist. They might not even exist. Okay. Now, let's copy that. Copy. And paste it in there. And just do execute. If entity predicate matches limit 1. Ooh, okay. What we want to do here is check. So we found someone because the ID did match, but I don't want to teleport to them if they have their TP off. So in here as well, we will do scores equals TP off equals 1. So we found the player, their ID matched, but their TP off is on. So let's say that player has teleport disabled. That'll do. And if we manage to make it all the way down here, then we found someone, they do have teleport on, and we can teleport to them. So let's do TP at S to any player whose predicate equals ID TP match limit equals 1. Okay, save. Now, looking at this, this might work. We don't have a list, but remember with a trigger, you can type it directly into chat. Now, that's why we've had these 2 checks. Because even though if their TP is off, we're not going to list them. If they're not online, we're not going to list them. But a player could just type the trigger in chat. Let's have a go and see what happens. Let's do a reload. See, because it's a trigger, there's nothing to stop me doing trigger TP set to 6. That player is offline or does not exist. Okay, now I'm expecting that for every number except 4 or 5. Let's set it to 4. That's me. Okay, it does nothing. We expect it to do nothing. Let's set it to 5. Okay. So we've basically we've done the teleporting. If we knew each other's ID, we could just use that. No problem. But let's set it up so if it's 1, so if I do trigger TP, that's going to set it to 1. And that is when it would run the list function. Okay. So let's go off to list. Reset and enable the trigger. Okay, was it the TP trigger? I think we had that in read, isn't it? Yeah, let's just copy it. Copy. Reset and enable that. There we go. Display a title in chat. So, tell raw at S. List of available players to teleport to. Tiki port. Good old Tiki ports. There we go. List of availables. We want to tag the player so I can reference them later. So this is the player running the trigger. So let's tag at S. And it's a temporary tag. Doesn't matter what we call it. I'll just call it this. And I'm going to remove the tag here as well. Tag at S. Remove this. Get the player's ID. We'll do that last. Let's do display footer in chat. And this will say click on a player name to teleport to them. Okay. Get the player's ID. Execute as all players unless score at S TP off matches 1. Run function get ID. Now, this is going to run as all players who don't have their teleport turned off. That includes me. And there's no point teleporting to yourself, so I want to exclude myself from the list. I can use a predicate here. Predicate equals not ID match. Okay. So I've got an ID of 4. It'll say execute as all players who don't have an ID of 4. So it's not going to be me. It's only going to find other players. Cool. And we want to get their ID. So let's go off to get ID. Store a player's ID. Okay. So we want to put this into storage so we can use it in a macro. So what we'll do is we'll execute store the result into storage. I usually use ID data. And we'll store it into player.id. We'll store it as an integer. As an init, as an integer. We'll times it by 1. That's the scale. We will run scoreboard players get at S ID. Okay. So that should be storing my ID. Add the player to the... Well, let's have a look. List. No. It's not storing my ID. Why not? Because we're executing as all players that don't have the same ID as me. And I do have the same ID as myself. So this is going to be every player but me. Okay, so we're going to get the ID of the player that isn't me. And we're going to add that player to the chat list. So we'll do a function and add with storage ID data player. So now the add function is going to have access to this player and it's going to have access to their ID, which we can use in a macro, and it's going to have access to us, the player running the command, because we have a temporary tag, which we're adding here, then we're running the function, and then we're removing the tag. So we have access to me and the player, or and the other player. So now we just need to add them to the list. So we'll go to add the player name to the list. So it's going to be a tell raw. Let's do it not as a macro first. So let's do tell raw all players whose tag equals this. So me, because remember we tagged me with this. Limit equals 1. Once you found one, there's only one me. So once we found one, don't look anymore. What do we want in here? Let's have a little bit of symbol text with just a couple of little arrows like that. And then inside we want to put the player's name. Now remember we're running as the player, well, as all the other players, so we can use selector in here, I think. So let's try that. Let's do speech marks, colon, speech marks. We'll put selector in there. We'll say at S. So that should pull out, in this example, minion's name. But we're going to need a click event as well, because we need to be able to click on their name. So we need a click event. Click event needs to be in speech marks. And then that would open and close. And inside there we would need an action. And the action will have a value. And we can have a hover event as well. Let's do the click event first. Click event. I would like to perform an action, please. Yes, what action would you like to perform? I would like to run a command. Okay, what is the value of that command? I would like to trigger TP set. Now, I'm going to hard code the ID here because we're not doing a macro yet. I'm going to hard code it to minion, who was 5, I believe. And that's it. Let's add a hover event as well. Okay. So, a hover event, we would need to pop it after there. So it's still inside, so we've got the purple one for selector, still inside that one, but it's outside of the click event. Yes, that looks good. Let's do a hover event. Now I've done it again, haven't I? Speech marks, speech marks. Remember the speech marks. Hover event. And that would be an open and close. And inside there we need, okay, you're going to hover. What action would you like to take? And what will be the value we're putting in here? So the action will be, I want to show some text. I would like to show some text, please. No problem. What is the contents of the text you would like to show? I would like to show click to teleport. So now when I hover the mouse over their name, which will be from selector S, I hover the mouse over, it says click to teleport. When I click, it runs the command trigger TP set value 5. So we can only teleport to minion, no one else. Reload. Okay, let's do 3. Let's do trigger TP. List of available players to teleport to minion. Let's click on that. I'm at minion. Okay. That worked. Let's change it so it's now using the macro instead, so we can teleport to any player. So get ID. Here we are getting the ID. We're saving it into storage ID player.id. We're then passing that to the add function. So we have access to whatever is in storage ID data player. And that's the ID. Okay, let's go to add. Let's change that hard-coded ID we've got there. I said ID a lot, haven't I? Let's change that to ID. And now we're using a macro, so let's say we are using data that was passed to us. Let's save that. Let's do a reload. Let's try and teleport to minion again. Still works, that's good. Okay. Minion, try and turn off your teleport. Trigger TP toggle. Right, it's off now. Because we set the game rule send command feedback to false, it's not told us that it's off. But if we now do the list again, trigger TP, no one on the list. Okay. So we're done. We're finished. But I will just show you a list. Here we go. In the list function, here's that predicate that's getting all the players' IDs, and here's the predicate checking if it matches. So this is what's stopping my name being added. Let's just cut that out for the moment. Now we're just going to do all players, whether their ID matches or not. So if I do a reload here, and I do a trigger, TP, there I am, so I can teleport to myself. It's absolutely useless, because I am where I am. So I am where I am. That's it. When we should be able to now also check, though, if we do a trigger TP toggle, now my toggle is off. Now if I do the list, I'm not on the list either because my toggle is off. Okay, now I better put that back on now before I package up the data pack. There we go. Okay, job done. If a player or any player who's currently online has their TP off set to 0, then you can teleport to them. I think this is pretty cool for a multiplayer server, actually. There we are. That's it for today. Thank you very much to GalSergey. I got this from the Datapack Assembler website, GalSergey's Datapack Assembler website. I'll put a link to that in the description. There's loads of cool stuff on there. I don't look at it for a few days, and suddenly there's loads more stuff to look at. And This one I saw in the Discord I hang out in. Someone said, hey, can you put selectors into Telraw? And they said, hey, look at this for an example. And I went, oh, that seems like fun. I'm going to do a tutorial on that one. And here's a bit of waffling at the end just for fun. Anyway, I'll let you go. Have a great day. I'll see you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.